This is Derek T, and I would like to talk about an excellent, my new favorite book, The Lost Frontier Handbook by Suzanne Sherman. And this is great. In 2020, I figured out sort of how unprepared I was. And it was like, if there wasn't a store, if I couldn't go to the store for stuff, I would have been totally lost. And I've been stocking up, and I actually came across this because I was looking into canning and, just ways to preserve food. And boy, does this one ever cover it. It actually puts my mind at ease. All the stuff I stay up at night worrying about, a lot of that's covered in here. It really goes over these forgotten techniques that my Great Depression grandparents probably would have known, and people who lived on the frontier. We think it's a super complicated thing to have soap or have charcoal, and it covers so many great things, because charcoal you can actually use to filter water, and you can make it yourself. I mean, just all kinds of great techniques. Just to have a good printed copy of this book, that's the ultimate. I mean, this is probably as valuable as a 6 month supply of food, because it really is a teach a man to fish kind of book. So I would highly recommend it. It's The Lost Frontier Handbook by Suzanne Sherman.
Hey everybody, it's James Wakely, and today I want to talk to you about a really cool book that I was introduced to recently from a friend of mine called The Lost Frontier Handbook. Now this is by Suzanne Sherman, and this book outlines the skills, the knowledge sets, and kind of the practical survival approaches from our ancestors. But what I like about the approach that she's done with this book is she's tried to select and pull forward those topics and subject matters that would have the most applicability to our scenario, to our modern day and age. So one of the things that I like about this is she talks about, first of all, food production. And this really addresses the concern that we might have about rising food prices right now. The food prices, we just keep seeing them go up and up and up and up. So she lays out a very practical approach on how to start a simple garden, how to do some simple food production. She gives you lists of different food stuff that you could think about growing, and then she also addresses different styles of approaching that food production, companion gardening and some other things like that. Really good section on food production. She also brings in and talks about, there's a section on raising chickens and things to get extra protein in your diet. I feel she does a really good job laying a lot of those things out, especially if you're new to the topic, and even if you're a prepper veteran. I have found a lot of really good information in the sections that she's provided. That also leads to, okay, how do we prepare the food? She's got good sections in here on cooking, different methods of off-grid cooking, things when services are not available, like electricity and things like that. So she has some good treatment on how to actually cook and prepare food. And then lastly, regarding food, she talks about food preservation. And I really like that she starts off not just by giving you a bunch of ways to preserve food. She starts off discussing what makes food go bad, how does food spoil? And that way you have a working knowledge of that. And then she gives you methods and examples and how-tos on how to go about preserving your food. Everything from dry storage to wet storage and canning, freeze drying versus dehydrating, and even smoking and things like that. So a really good section on food preservation. What are some other concerns that we might run into? Well, when stores have stuff fly off their shelves, a lot of times we'll also see pharmacies have their shelves stripped dry. A lot of stuff is out of stock. That becomes a really big problem if you have a medical condition. Or just your regular day-to-day stuff. Health and hygiene are the two most common killers during long-term natural disasters, grid down scenarios, social collapses, etc. Her section in here on home remedies and medicines and things like that, I found to be very good, very, very good. She even addresses on how to be able to make penicillin in your house for antibiotic use. She talks about, for example, ibuprofen. What if you can't get ibuprofen? She talks about a pain salve that you can make that's extremely effective against pain reduction, swelling, inflammation, stuff like that. I would definitely highly recommend picking up this book. I think that there is plenty of information and projects and materials in here that would not just add to your knowledge and your skill set, but also be really fun projects just to work on as a family. If you've got kids or you're just trying to become more self-reliant. This book is very practical for everyday use, and especially will become gold during situations when we might need these type of skill sets when things are not available.